Hi everyone, I'm Elephants Are Tasty, as of course most of you know, and this video is probably something you weren't really expecting to see unless you read my tweets, which I don't really know why you would. I'm kind of crazy on Twitter, but whatever. This is a RWBY discussion video, and because I can successfully type out a title, you probably know what this is about. This is me discussing some of the stuff that happened in RWBY Volume 6 Chapter/Episode 3, which is basically the lore dump episode of the century. So after watching it, I was like crying, like legitimately for about 20 minutes. Like you can see I start sobbing in my reaction video. And I just wanted to make a discussion video on the episode because it was like so deep and crazy and just like information packed on so many levels. And also I want to just praise RWBY a little bit for this episode. It was beautifully animated, beautiful story, music effects, like it was an amazing episode. It might be my favorite of RWBY. I don't know, I'll have to see how I feel when the volume's done. I also want to use this video as a chance for me to explore and reflect on my personal thoughts and feelings and ideals surrounding the shit show that happened in Remnant's past. I do see this part of the RWBY storyline as containing like a lot more, or a lot of different moral viewpoints, stuff we haven't really addressed in the show yet, and I think it'd be really interesting for me at the very least. I don't know if this is gonna be super interesting to you, but I think it would be interesting to explore what I personally believe about the story, like who's right, who's wrong, just that kind of thing, if that makes sense. So basically, I tend to not internally reflect on these types of things, especially like if it's just based on like a show that I watch for fun, and if I'm not being asked to reflect on stuff. Like I can reflect on stuff if I'm doing an assignment or an essay, whatever, but usually if it's just something I'm doing for fun, I tend not to reflect on stuff a lot. So then I feel like that sometimes does impact my RWBY reactions a little bit, just as me seeming like I don't care so much. I don't know, it's hard for me to explain. As y'all know, whenever the camera turns on, I get extremely not eloquent, but whatever. So I thought making this video would help me solidify my viewpoints going forward for the rest of the volume, and like going forward having the knowledge of all knowledge having to do with RWBY that episode 3 gave us. I'm filming this when episode 3 has gone public, so episode 4 is out for first members, but I haven't seen episode 4 yet. I'm reacting to it after I make this video. So this video only contains like knowledge I have from episode 3. So there could be more relevant information in the rest of the volume, but of course I don't know yet, so that's that. And I just want to talk about this episode because it was pretty crazy. So just a few things before I get started. First, I'm assuming that where Jin ended the story is the end of the information she will give. At least for now. Of course there's one question left, and that she didn't leave anything relevant out of the story. Second, the first part of this video will be scripted. As you can kind of already tell, I've been looking at my script a little bit just so I can remember all the things I want to say. But for like the second part, I don't know exactly how this is going to be super structured. I have some notes written on some paper that I'm just going to read off of, so it's not completely scripted. And then third, yeah, I will kind of structure this video a little bit. Like first I'm gonna read what I have of a script I already wrote, which is me going into episode 3, going into volume 6, my opinions before we had any of this new information. And then, I gotta read my script here, but after that I'll go through the entire episode of episode 3, like point by point, scene by scene, whatever you want to call it. I'll make comments on various parts. And just ideas in the episode, and then once I'm through that, I have a handy little sheet. I'm not showing you what it actually says on it. Well, okay, I'll show you. Whose fault is it? Oh, that might be backwards. I don't know. It was backwards when I'm recording it, but whatever. My paper says whose fault is it, and I have nice little boxes with points saying like who's right, who's wrong, all that stuff. And so that's going to be the interesting part of the thing, I think. So that's for the end. And then like some final thoughts and whatever. So without further ado, we are going to dive into my mind and examine this damn roller coaster of an episode. Please keep in mind that I'm not the most deep philosophical person. I don't have a deep understanding of life if that makes any sense. I am not a genie. I have not reached enlightenment, so keep that in mind. Please don't hate me. But anyway, here we go. So first I'm going to read out what I have of a script for my thoughts going into Volume 3. And I wrote this a few days ago, so I don't know how organized it is, but I digress. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read off the script now a little bit. So going into episode 3, I started to feel more and more uneasy about Ozpin, and just not wanting to trust him at all. I grew more and more angry with Ozpin for occupying Oscar, and that's just one thing. So first I'll talk about why I was, or still kind of am, maybe, I don't know, you have to watch the end of this video, angry with Ozpin, and then things that maybe before episode 3 made me sympathize or agree with him. So, throughout the first 3 volumes, before we even knew about Salem, Ozpin always seemed kind of iffy or just like mysterious to me. Not necessarily in a bad way, but he was mysterious. Like, he was the mysterious character. We knew nothing about him. But he obviously knew, in my opinion, about Jean getting into Ozpin? No. He obviously knew about Jean getting into Beacon with fake transcripts. He's the freaking headmaster and he's like a wizard. But he obviously didn't care. He allowed Jean to come to his school. He gave mysterious and daunting speeches to his students, where usually I would think a headmaster would be kind of more inspirational. Just kind of smaller things like that. And we knew that Cinder and the gang wanted to sneak into Beacon to get at him in some way, shape, or form, and of course leading up to the Salem reveal, we discovered that Ozpin was involved in something very, very serious, aka the Maidens and his secret circle, his brotherhood. So just in general, we knew that Ozpin was a very mysterious character, with a very complicated past, and that's pretty much all we knew. Like, he freaking told RWBY, I've made more mistakes than any man, woman, or child on the planet. So that kind of leaves everyone to be like, oh, okay, Ozpin might be kind of fucked up dude. But for the most part, I didn't really dislike him or anything. Maybe he lost a bit of favor from me during the whole Pyrrha ordeal. I get the desperate times call for desperate measures, and like I said, I didn't say this before, I guess I forgot. I'm not rewatching the first 3 seasons just to make this video, so I might forget some very fine details. But something about the whole Pyrrha Maiden thing, it just made me like feel uneasy. Like, it just felt wrong to me that this dude was presenting this knowledge to a first-year student and expecting her to make like a huge decision on that. And just, like I said, I'm not very eloquent right now, but just something about that made me be like, okay, this is kind of shady. I don't really like what's going on here. But I do kind of get that, oh, this is pretty serious and there's about to be an attack, so. So sure, Pyrrha agreed to it, but revealing that kind of stuff to a kid, and almost pushing it on her, like knowing she was noble and wanted to fight for, what's right, all that stuff, I feel like Ozpin knew he could get Pyrrha to do it. And so that made me a little bit upset with him. But then Volume 4 came around, and of course he reincarnated with Oscar after Cinder defeated him, and he's basically possessing his body, and just, Oscar was so scared. It made me kind of sad. But because my mind is kind of slow with stuff like this, I originally didn't see much of an issue of Ozpin reincarnating with Oscar. I was just more intrigued by the fact that Ozpin was still alive in some way, and yeah, kind of, and he could reincarnate mentally or whatever, his soul, in the first place. But as time progressed, like as the volumes 4 and 5 progressed, I just got more and more annoyed or creeped out about Ozpin. So this man, who is basically thousands of years old from what we knew, was inhabiting the body and mind of a 14-year-old boy. He was merging souls with him, flooding his brain with information and worldviews and shit like that, just tearing him out of his world to a degree that I personally found and still find inappropriate. Even if Oscar did want a life that was different from just being a farmhand in Mistral. Oscar basically lost his freedom and not to mention his privacy on so many levels, and I can't help but take issue with that. And as we come to know, like, Ozpin can't really control where he reincarnates, but I don't know, something about him just taking over Oscar just makes me feel so bad for Oscar, and like it still feels inappropriate to me. So then we get to Volume 5 and the very beginning of Volume 6, and we find out more and more secrets that Ozpin has been hiding, or like Yang likes to point out, just telling them half-truths. So of course, the freshest one in my mind when I was writing this script is leaving out the fact that the Grimm are attracted to the Relic of Knowledge. And personally, if I was in Team RWBY or Team Juniper's position, I definitely would have wanted to know that, considering it would have been my job to defend citizens from Grimm. But if we're carrying around a little Grimm beacon, I probably would have wanted to be more prepared. Yeah, I'm more prepared to just encounter Grimm on a train and going through some snowy ass mountains. But other examples would probably be like the stuff about turning Crow and Raven into birds and creating the maidens, because remember, Crow and Raven had two different opinions on the bird thing, and just like him being the wizard who created the maidens, but whatever. I remember, I think, that during the conversation when Yang was angry about lies and half-truths, I think that was during the conversation when Yang was angry about like the lies and half-truths. And of course, she was just coming out of her interactions with Raven, who was like, question everything, but I digress. But before the end of episode 2 of volume 6, where I realized what had actually been going on, like remember my mind's kind of slow with this stuff, I was more angry at Ozpin for how he exerted control over Oscar against his will. And granted, I am a bit biased, as Oscar is still like my perfect little farm boy who can do no wrong by his own will. But I really love Oscar, but I get in some situations it would be beneficial for Ozpin to take over, like during the fight with Hazel, considering Ozpin knew Hazel and was a better fighter. But like taking over forcefully or against Oscar's will really pisses me off, especially at the end of episode 2 of volume 6. So like I get Ozpin had secrets he didn't want to give out, but like, as you can tell, it's a whole lot of me being unsure and like saying stuff like, this happened, but I see this like point of view, stuff like that. And that shows how little I've reflected on this stuff. But like, there are two sides, and like I know the fandom can like go either way on an issue, but just like all in all, leading up to episode 3 of volume 6, I just was really pissed at Ozpin for hiding secrets of things that would have been important. I was pissed at Ozpin for exerting forceful control over Oscar, but then I was glad Oscar could kind of resist it. But then at the same time, I was like, okay, yeah, obviously Ozpin has some reasons for the things that he does, but considering I don't know all those reasons yet, I'm still kind of pissed. Okay, yeah, so leading into episode 3 of volume 6, I had become almost infinitely more aware of how much I had an issue with Ozpin, not only like being secretive, but occupying a young boy like Oscar in the first place. And firstly, I found it just very inappropriate for Ozpin to occupy Oscar like that against his will, and like infiltrating his mind with just information and worldviews and just like a whole bunch of shit, literally, as we learned in volume 3. Like Ozpin's. And additionally, I believe that Ozpin leaving out crucial details and hiding things from people, no matter their affiliation, besides pure evil, of course, like, I think that was wrong. So here, mostly referring to people like Team Ranger, Team RWBY, maybe even Raven, but not anyone like Hazel or Cinder or whatever. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. I don't know. So, all in all, I had a very negative view of Ozpin, and that can definitely be seen in my episode 2 reaction, where basically, as I recall, I just kept saying, like, fuck Ozpin, fuck this, like, this is bad. But if that makes any semblance of sanity, to you, that was my feelings going into episode 3. I was like, okay, I'm mad at Ozpin, I feel bad for Oscar, but there are reasons this shit is going on. So, now, I'm going to get into my notes and get into the episode, and we're actually going to talk about the roller coaster that was Volume 6, Episode 3. Over here, I'm just gonna be clicking through the episodes so I have visual cues, I can't speak when I film, of the episode. So like I have my notes, but like I want to know exactly what I'm referring to. So I don't remember if I specified this in the last like 10 minutes of the video or whatever, but basically my first discussion, just clicking through the video, it's not going to be a whole lot about like what I thought is right and wrong. It's going to be a lot of just like, here's what I think about this one thing, oh, this part was animated really well, maybe a mix of like, I'll mix in some of what was right and wrong, but really like after we get through the episode, that's when I'll like dive into my opinions and stuff. So, anywho, let's begin. So we're at this beautiful shot. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm just gonna click through according to stuff that I wrote down, stuff I want to mention. So my first thing on my list, Ozma is hot, LOL, and Salem is a cutie. So yes, that is true. Look at this specimen. Ozma was a snack with like 2 C's. Ozma was a snack. Jeez, I love his design. It's so intricate. Like the armor's really cool. I love the color scheme. His weapon is like super rad. And he's cute. Like he's a hot boy. He's a hot anime boy. Like, I don't know. I just found him really cute. And like I even found him cute in the intro. You can like literally go see me reacting to the intro the first time and I talk about that. And then let me see, where is Salem on here? And Salem is also really cute. I guess I might mention this later, I wrote it down later, but I watched Arnold Murder of Birds live stream discussion for this episode, and I'm totally on board with Jean being a descendant from at least Ozpin or Salem in some way. I'll get to it more later, but I think Salem and Oz's 4 kids died. So it's a little gray area, but I do think Jean is descended from one of them in some way. Anyway, Salem is super duper cute. I actually love her outfit, and I'm looking forward to seeing cosplayers. I would totally cosplay her, but I don't know, we're just gonna have to wait and see. So, also, I think at some point, I don't know if I said it in a video, but, oh, look at him, he's so cute. Fuck, he melts my heart. I don't really know why. Yeah, sorry, clicking through here. Like, look at this shot. Like, this is super pretty, too. Like, this is, like, RWBY just did so good. They went, like, all out on this, like, bravo. But anyway, I digress. I kind of thought, like, once we discovered Salem that she, like, hates Ozpin, I kind of thought that they were going to be kind of like a lover's story. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. I hope it wasn't going to be, like, too cliche or anything like that, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, and like, their love story really made me feel for them in this episode, as I'll hopefully remember to talk about later, but I kind of knew that they were going to be lovers. I didn't assume a father-daughter partnership or anything like a mentorship, anything like that. So then, my boy, he falls ill. Yep, here he is. He falls ill. And I think this is kind of like a common trope. Oh, there he fades away. But I think this is kind of a common trope. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a memory that this is a thing where, like, the infallible warrior, the warrior who was never slain or injured in battle or whatever, he dies due to something super simple and, like, super small. So that's what happened here. Ozma fell ill. I think that's, like, a common thing. So when I was watching it, I thought about that. So I thought that was a good inclusion. And then this is something also that Arnold brought up in his videos, I know. Could Ozma not have just been healed with magic if they all had magic and he just fell ill to, like, a simple thing? But, of course, like, I like to look at the other side of things where, okay, there's probably some limitations on the magic the humans had. There's probably, those limitations also would probably be due to the gods wanting to maintain a balance. So obviously there'd have to be some way for people to die, because if the humans have magic, obviously they can't just resurrect everyone because there is a balance. So something like that. I think there's definitely restrictions on the magic that they had. So then, of course, here's where everything goes downhill. Salem tries to bring her lover back. I mean, I would too. I mean, just look at him. I don't know where I'm going with this. This is super pretty too. Like, animation is, like, they went mental on the animation this episode. I fucking love it. So just in terms of, like, Salem and her mindset, like, I see her anguish, and I understand it. Like, I've lost people in my life in more ways than one. Like, I've lost relatives, obviously, who have actually died. My dog died just over a year ago while I was away at school. Stuff like that. Like, I've experienced loss in several ways. I've lost my friends. I made a video about that. And it fucking sucks. Like, mourning and just experiencing the feeling of loss really sucks. And I think a good point here is that Salem was left alone, and she had no one to talk to. She didn't have a therapist or anything like that, so she was internalizing it, and I think that's where a lot of, like, her anger came from, really. But just the loss of the one pure good source of energy in her life, the person who saved her, the person she fell in love with, if that person was suddenly taken away from her, I'd be pretty pissed too. And I would want to do something to bring the person back, like the 5 stages of grief, like denial, anger, I don't know if this isn't in the right order or whatever, but bargaining, like, I would want to do something to bring this person back. So I definitely understand where Salem was coming from here. But then, like, of course, she meets up with Dude Bro, Majestic Dude Bro, who sounds like Ironwood. I don't actually remember if they're the same voice actor or not. So he's like, girl, no, I can't do it. And then Salem's all like, that's not fair, grrr. I'm trying to, like, click through, like, really slowly. But whatever. Salem's like, that's not fair. That definitely shows, like, how impulsive she is. Like, I get that. I would definitely say, like, it's unfair too. Like, that, I kind of thought that a little bit, like, when my dog died and stuff like that. But unlike Salem, I understand that nothing is permanent. All living beings, they were born, they grow, they die. Like, that, death and taxes, that are the 2 guarantees in human life, basically. But yeah, Salem was impulsive, greedy, what's the freaking word, selfish. So we definitely see that she had some of those underlying traits before she went crazy. I think a lot of that would probably come from her evil father, as we assume, because he kept her locked away in a tower. Are we sure this isn't Jacques? But whatever. So there's that. And the god was just like, let him rest, dude. Like, he's dead, he's enjoying, he's not suffering in the afterlife. Like, what more do you want? And she's like, I want him back, blah, blah, blah. I won't let him rest. And, like, the fact that the god literally said, let him rest, and Salem said no, that's a pretty big red flag. And also, at this point, couldn't Salem just be like, is there an afterlife where he is? And the god would be like, yes. And then Salem could be like, okay, I'm gonna go kill myself so I can see him. That would have avoided a whole lot of drama, but that didn't happen, so I don't know. My throat always gets scratchy when I'm making these videos. I don't usually talk super much. Anywho, so one thing I thought when rewatching this episode today, when I wrote down my notes, is definitely Salem should not have gone to both gods. That's because, like, you know that if one of them's like, no, I can't do this, you know she's gonna go to the other one. Like, Salem, you fucked up. That's your fault. So, but then I thought, like, what if she just went to the dark god first? And even if she didn't know, what if he's pure evil and he's literally going to kill me when I get there? Then she could see Ozma in the afterlife, so that's not too bad. And he would have just brought Ozma back without dealing with this fucking drama with his brother if Salem had gone there first. That's just, like, what I thought about when watching the episode, but of course that's not what happened, which is pretty depressing. I just, like, I've said this before, like, this episode is beautifully animated, like, let's go to the domain of darkness, like, this is, and, like, this whole crap with him going, like, rah, 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 that's pretty spooky. That's pretty well animated. Yep, so then, ooh, nice ass, but whatever. For some reason, that's the first thing I noticed when I just clicked it. So, this episode is beautiful. I love the domain of darkness. That's, like, hella rad as well. But, the gods all things considered, are pretty human-like. They definitely have issues. They're imperfect in their reasoning and thought processes and empathy, whatever. They are imperfect. They are, I think, no better than humanity itself, except they have magical powers. So, I mean, the hearts of men are easily swayed. So, they were obviously swayed by this girl who manipulated them. Why is my rhythm so off? I think it's my throat is like fucking me up. But anyway, so then there's like some bullshit, some absolute bullshit that just pissed me off. Okay, I clicked right to it. Jesus Christ. First of all, before I forget, this is the same exact effect that happened to Pyrrha when she died. So I wonder if there's actually a connection there, which I think there should be if the effects are that similar, but I don't know if there actually is because they were made in different engines, and I mean, it could just be a cool sparkly effect that they're reusing. So there's that. But anyway, so what they did to Ozma was, in my opinion, torturous and downright evil. He was a completely innocent man, and they just brought him back and disintegrated him several times, which was causing him obvious pain, as we can see, and emotional distress for the brief moments he was alive. Oh my god, I'm losing it. So I agree with Salem when she said that the gods were monsters. I do think that is an accurate description of these pieces of shit. And yes, I think the gods here are pieces of shit. But, like, did Salem really think that she could hurt them with her magic, which is a gift that the god of darkness gave humanity, as we learn? So, obviously, like, you would not be able to use this power to overthrow the person who gave you the power. Definitely, like, not in this situation. But anyway, next, let's see, what else did I think about? So then, yeah, all that shit happens, and Salem becomes immortal. Let me just, oh, fuck. Ozma, I miss you, boy. I love you. Yep, so Salem becomes immortal. As long as the planet turns, Salem will walk its face. So, basically, the gods created the Salem that is now plaguing the show. Also, oh, that got so bright. Sorry about that. Punishing a grieving human by making her immortal is very much over the top and way too harsh, in my opinion, because this video is my opinion. And first of all, like, do the gods not assume that there are other humans exactly like Salem who would do whatever they could to bring back someone who was the most special person to them in their life? Like, the gods don't go out and punish everyone else. And I get, okay, maybe those people don't try to pin both brothers against each other, but, like, the gods don't even consider actual raw human emotion for a minute. They literally act like they don't give a shit about Salem's suffering. Like, the god of light, okay, well, both gods, they do at first, but once they start having issues, they throw all that concern out the window, I think. And also, did the gods think that, did the gods fail to realize that making a human immortal disrupts the balance? Because it's bright again. Making a human immortal so she can't die, that literally is just as bad at disrupting the balance that they created as bringing back a single human from the dead. And if they're like, well, if you're thinking like, oh, it's pretty inconsequential to one person, then literally, why didn't they just kill Salem and be like, you can literally live out your days forever in a place of pure happiness and no pain in the afterlife with him? Like, if they're going to make her immortal and that disrupts the balance, even though it's just one person, why not just kill her and let her reunite you with Ozma in heaven? Like, it's the same amount of disrupting a balance, so I literally don't get it. And I get that Salem asked for him to become back alive. Become back alive? Like, what the fuck am I talking about? But hopefully you'll know what I mean. Like, literally, there would be no pain in the afterlife either, so why couldn't Salem just be like, okay, like, can you bring me back, can you bring me to the afterlife? And if they were like, no, then she could literally just kill herself. But, so, next we have Salem scheming to, like, get a whole bunch of armies together to go fight the gods, and that was, like, a dead end to begin with. Like, you're not going to destroy the gods, especially, like, if you're only using magic and powers that they gave you, like I said before. But I think just her scheming about it gives an insight into her true nature. Yes, she was hurting, but, like, I feel like there are more healthier outlets she could have taken, so if she automatically resorts to, let's destroy them, I feel like it was kind of hopeless to begin with. Like, Salem had, like, bad traits and maybe bad worldly ideas, and that could totally be because of her father who kept her locked in a tower. I don't know. So then she gets her army together, and then that goes super well, as we can all tell. That rhymed. Why do I always rhyme so much when I'm making these videos? And then everyone gets Thanos'd out of existence. I just say Thanos because, like, okay, they basically dissolved to ash, and it was purple, as you can see on the screen. And yes, 99.99999% of humanity was destroyed instead of 50%, but I'd still like to call this being Thanos out of existence, so fight me. But, okay, that being Thanos out of existence for the actions of one human is completely and utterly preposterous and excessive. The gods are fucking stupid. Like, what kind of gods are they? To do this, like, for the actions of one human, why not just do something to make her suffer? Why do you just go out and just destroy all of innocent humanity because of the actions of one human? That makes no fucking sense to me. And that automatically just means they are not benevolent gods. I mean, they even say that their planet was an experiment, and that just raises more red flags for me personally. Yeah, like, it just makes me think the gods did not care about people in the first place. They did not care about their creations in the first place. They call it a beautiful experiment, but they just destroyed it all just because the gods didn't like the outcome of their experiment. Now that's bad science. If you do a research or a science experiment and it doesn't agree with your hypothesis, you don't just destroy it or report false things. Like, that's not how it works. Like, the gods were just a little butthurt that the results of their experiment weren't what they wanted, and, like, too fucking bad. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't give a shit about the gods. Like, whatever. But then, of course, she's like, oh, come back, and the dude's, like, still demanding things of your creators. Like, yeah, okay, that's a little excessive. Like, Salem, she doesn't know when she's beat. And that's just, like, Salem, stop. Like, you did this partially, yes, the gods were pieces of shit, but you need to chill the fuck out. Like, you are beaten. And then, of course, we have, the god of darkness. Let's see, I gotta find it. I should memorize the timestamp for this. Yep, the god of darkness just yeets the moon. So, I was expecting something a bit more meaningful about how the moon got destroyed. In a video a long time ago, long in internet years, like several years ago after Volume 3, I made some crappy little theory videos. And I think one of the ones involved what happened to the moon. And I think it had something to do with song lyrics. God, it was an older song from like Volume 1 or 2, I think. I don't remember it. But there's a lyric about shattering the moon. And something about hatred, I think. And I think I theorized that, like, the more hatred humanity has, the more it's divided, the more separated the moon will be. And then, like, if they become more harmonious, the moon will go back together. I don't know. I think it was something like that. So I was just kind of expecting something more meaningful or, like, magical about what happened to the moon. I mean, the god of darkness yeeting through the moon is pretty magical, I guess. But I still like how the god just yeeted through it. Like, he had no care in the world. It was just kind of funny, honestly. But, I mean, a random, being a scientist, okay, I'm studying science. I am a student of science. I can't help but wonder, what's the physics involved here? Some of the fragments rain down to Remnant, okay, that makes sense. But some of them just sit there and like hang around the moon, they float around with the moon, but I don't know the exact physics of this. So if anyone's a physicist, please let me know. But if we're assuming that from the time Ozma started to reincarnate, from the time that, well actually, no, that wouldn't make sense. From the time that the God of Darkness yeets through the moon, if we're assuming thousands and thousands of years have passed since then to modern day RWBY, would the fragments of the moon really still be like that? That doesn't make a total lot of sense to me, but I feel like I'm focusing way too much on this, and it's just like a funny little thing that I would like to think about. Like, what's the physics on this? How realistic is this? Although also, we don't know the rules of physics in the Remnant universe. So, I don't know. What's the acceleration of gravity on Remnant? Does anyone know? Anyway. So, I had been feeling like kind of bad for Salem throughout this episode, just because like all the suffering she went through. Like, it's like Weiss said to Yang in Volume 5, like she didn't know loneliness like Yang did, and it's like, I don't know loss like Salem did, but I have my own version, and like I get where the pain comes from, so I empathized with her. At some points, yes, she was stupid and irrational and annoying, but I still empathize with her. And then just when she fucking jumps into these grim pools, man. Like this shot right here, that is super elegant. I fucking love this shot right here. And then, I'll just play it for y'all. Just like, right here, when she's getting swiped by the force of pure yeah, it's pretty symbolic. But that, dude, that was freaking depressing. Like, those were really good shots too. I really like those shots, and it made me feel the pain a little bit actually. So I really like that. And I started feeling really bad for her, but then I knew like, okay, this is where fucking like no return, man. And then also like I raised another question. Obviously, the gods left, but the domain of darkness and the grim pools was still there. So where is the domain of light? I'm assuming the domain of darkness is on the bigger, fatter dragon-shaped continent, and perhaps the domain of light would be on the skinnier dragon-shaped part of the Mistral continent. Is that Anima or Solitas? Whichever, like, I fucking forget, okay? I don't know all the details of the Remnant universe as good as I should, but hopefully y'all know what I'm trying to say. Someone said that the domain of light would be on Vacuo, but considering there are two continents that are dragon-shaped like the corresponding gods, I don't really know. I feel like the domain of light might be still existing somewhere in Remnant if the domain of darkness is. And so, like, wouldn't the pool of life be there? Like, has anyone discovered it? I don't know. But anyway, so the pools of Grimm created this being who desired pure destruction. Go back a little bit. Yep, here we go. Salem desires pure destruction. So Salem becoming grimmified and desiring pure destruction was not her fault. It was a side effect of her just wanting to be like, okay, I want to die real bad. So if it's like, I want to die real bad. So if this pool of the light brother gave me life, couldn't the pool of the dark brother make me die? That makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like that would be something I would try out if I was that desperate. So Salem getting grimmified and Salem having a desire for destruction is not her fault. It just happened to be, she wanted to die, and this is what happened to her. Like, so her becoming evil Salem, I don't think is her fault. It just happened because she wanted to die. So that's how I see it. Then we have the whole thing with like Ozpin talking to the god again. Which is really pretty, by the way. It has the same kind of like wobbly effects as the pocket dimension that the Relic of Knowledge was in, so that's pretty cool. I'm reading my notes. So he says like in time humans will walk the face of Remnant again. Did they evolve, or were they placed there magically or something? I feel like they probably would have evolved. I don't know how likely that would be considering biology and how evolution works, but humans existed again, so I'm not gonna talk about it too much. Yeah, so, like, what are the chances that humans would evolve again, but I don't know if they would just be placed there, if that makes any sense. And how did the faunus come to existence? I think I agreed with Arnold's theory when he was talking about it, but I forget exactly what it was. Something like Salem had the idea to create faunus. I don't really remember. But then, like, why does he, little antler boy here, put all this responsibility on Ozma? Is it only purely because Ozma was, like, involved in the situation because he knew Salem? Like, that's a little unfair. Why not just go to the afterlife and be like, yo, my dudes, my angels, I got a thing I need to talk to you about. I just don't get why he picked Ozma. Probably, I guess, which I just thought while I was sipping my water, is because Ozma has, like, the pure heart, desire for justice. But I think it's super unfair to have put that on Ozma. Though, also, to be fair, Ozma accepted, kind of like Pyrrha, but the whole point, like, my whole issue is, like, springing this information and these possibilities on the person in question in the first place makes me a little, like, why would you do this? And, like, why did the gods really care anymore? He was like, oh, it was a beautiful experiment, but it fucked up. But, like, maybe we can try again. Like, why do the gods really care if they're like, okay, humanity was fucked, let's just go create another planet? Like, I don't get, they're giving humanity a chance to, like, come back, but humanity was destroyed. So, no one should care that humanity was destroyed because humanity was destroyed. Though, I guess it does tie into Salem has to learn the point of life and death to die, and she can't really do that unless there are other humans around, I guess. I don't really know. My brain's a little slow. Tell me what you think. And then, like, I just love how Ozma would have been dead and be dead with Salem instead of, like, yeah, I just love that he would rather be dead but be with Salem than have the chance to go back but be in a world without Salem. Like, I fucking love Ozma. Like, original Ozma, 11 out of 10. Please come back and let me give you a hug. Oh yeah, and then there's this other shot in this episode that I really fucking like. When he gets reincarnated into White Hair Man. Let's see, where is it? Come on. Yeah, look at him. He's like, I don't want to live without Salem. Fuck, I love Ozma. So anyway, he gets reincarnated. Hello. Oh my god, this is pretty derpy. I didn't mean to click on that exactly. Let's see. Oh yeah, this shot where he, like, does these cool moves and, like, stabs the Beowulf, that was pretty fucking cool. I like that choreography. I don't know what's up with his, like, weird ass gloves, but whatever. I don't care. He's still pretty hot. Yeah, so I love that shot. Someone left a comment just on my video. Ooh, they're saying Salem is a beautiful woman. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, so how did dust come to be? Are they, like, the ashes of the magical humans? I think that's something Arnold said. That's a pretty good theory. Like, tons of ashes condensed into crystals. But that, I feel like that would mean the crystals are pretty, what's the word? The crystals would be pretty scarce and probably be mined up pretty fast, because you don't know how many people were on Remnant before, and, like, ashes condensing into crystals, like, that's maybe, like, 1 crystal per human, right? So that's not a lot. Or, like, did it come from the moon fragments that fell down? And then if so, that has implications. Why does dust not work outside of Remnant's atmosphere? I don't know if we're ever gonna get, well, obviously, the people of Remnant don't know why, so I don't know if we'll ever get an explanation for that. I'm already running out of water, dude. Oh yeah, so then here's, like, just where, like, my emotions went fucking haywire. Oscar, I feel so bad for you, Jesus Christ. Oscar does not deserve this. So, this fucking thing. Salem and Ozma are reunited. Fuck. This makes me fucking depressed. Okay, wait, I need to see where is, like, see, this face is where I started to lose it, like, a little bit. Like, Salem's all pissed. She's the evil witch that lives in the forest, but then she sees her lover and she's like, oh my god, this is the best day of my life. And then fucking Ozma's face goes from this to that. Like, fuck. I fucking... This was so emotional for me. Jesus Christ. Just, there's so much love and, like, care for Salem, even though she looks kind of scary. And just, like, Ozma knows it's, like, still her inside. And it just warms my heart. And it just makes me so sad knowing what happens. His smile was just like, fuck, like, anime boy. I shouldn't be freaking out as much over this animated smile as I am, but, like, here I am. It's so sad, just as well. And then also, like, something else I thought, like, Salem only ever really knew Ozpin as Ozma. But then in the show, Salem calls him Ozpin. So they must have interacted again from the time he started calling himself Ozpin for Salem to call him Ozpin. If that makes any sense. Or, I don't know, maybe it's just because they couldn't spoil it in the show. Like, saying, like, this is the beginning of the end, Ozma. Like, that people would have been like, what the fuck, dude? But, I don't know. Yeah, so then we learned that fucking, they start talking, like, look at this. Fuck, it makes me so sad. So then they start, like, chatting it up and shit. But withholding information from each other, even if it's bad in relationships, is bad. So them not telling the truth just right off the bat, that's fucking, like, they were destined for their relationship to be destroyed in more ways than one, is what I'm just trying to get at. Like, I know from personal experience, withholding information in relationships, whether it be good or bad, unless you're like, oh, I have a surprise for you, and it's like a good thing, that's gonna fuck up your relationship. Because the truth will get out eventually, and then you're totally fucked. Anyway, let's see. What else do I have on my notes? Oh yeah, so then they're like inside talking with tea and stuff. And Salem is like, they're literally godless. They need to have guidance. And I actually kind of agree with this. Like, if the whole goal was to unify them, then if you just leave them all to their own devices, they're going to, like, develop kingdoms that are going to fight against each other, stuff like that. And I kind of see where she's coming from when she's like, okay, if we want to unite humanity, if you want to unite humanity, then we need to give them a starting point. Give them, like, it probably sounds so stupid what I'm saying, but I kind of agree with Salem just in the fact that if they want to unite humanity, they're probably going to need some common ground for everyone to start working together. Especially if the gods were going to judge them. But anyway, let's see if I can click on it. I didn't notice before in my initial watch-throughs of this episode that Ozma, like, really smiled when Salem was like, let's be gods and stuff. Okay, babe? Let's see. I'm gonna try to click on it. Like, he's like, ugh. Like, inside he knows it's wrong, but he's like, I love you. Yeah, see? Look at this. Like, he's so cute. Like, I love the facial expressions. Oh my god. Yeah, so at first, maybe, like, I was reacting or doing whatever, but I didn't super notice, like, how this smile connected with the phrase, the hearts of men are easily swayed. So it's just kind of like an interesting thing I noticed again. I don't know how I didn't notice it before, but, yep, he is a man with just some ability to not completely die, and his heart can be easily swayed by love, and it was. And it's kind of heartbreaking. Oh god, so here's where I really fucking lost it. Not when they became gods, because that's actually pretty cool. And, like, this is a cool shot. I like that. But here's where I lost it. Fucking this bullshit. God. When I found out they had a family, I just felt so heartbroken because it's like, I know what happens, and this is fucking depressing. And Ozpin and his souls have to live on with this memory forever, or until he can destroy Salem. And it's just heartbreaking to me. God. So obviously, I didn't express this at first because I was too busy literally crying my eyes out, or starting to, but I definitely think the maidens are obviously inspired by these 4 little girls, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, but I think the 4 original girls were killed in the battle. So I don't think they actually lived on to become the maidens, but I think when Ozma definitely encountered 4 sisters, maybe who reminded him of his little girls, then that's when he decided to do what he did and create the maidens. As you can tell, I'm kind of like, my brain's kind of going off because now I'm remembering that there's the end to this episode. Yeah, so this is really fucking depressing, and I literally sobbed, and if you did not see my episode 3 reaction, you can go see me cry. Or there's a shorter video of me crying. You can see that too. So this was so cute, but so sad just knowing what happens. And like, their color scheme is obviously maidens and stuff. And like, fucking look at, not this. Come on. Look at this. They actually love their family. And this is, I guess this is when they were still blinded by love. And both of their, like, inner feelings, Salem's of destruction and Ozma's of, like, make it right, they hadn't really had to deal with that yet. And I think they both genuinely love their family here and, like, want to be good parents. But then, of course, in the next shot, we see this bullshit. So yeah, so Salem is looking at a crystal ball, which is obviously, maybe she made the Seer Grimm and this was her inspiration for it, because there's definitely a connection. You see her smirking at humanity fighting and destroying each other. So that makes me think she wants them to destroy each other, and she doesn't really care what happens to humanity. And like she says in a minute, like, we will destroy all those who deny our word. So that just makes me think, like, she's just doing whatever to appease Ozma. I'm not really sure, though. Obviously, this is just like a historical recollection. We're not going to get the extreme details of these characters' thought processes. But I just think, like, all the time she wanted destruction, and if she could do it in a way that kept Ozma with her, then she'd be fine with it, I think. Wait a second. Wait, are y'all seeing what I'm seeing? I'm going to play it for a second. Right. Her scleras are white. They're not black. Is that like an animation error or something? Like,
you said we needed to bring humanity
now they're
together.
Black again.
In order to do that,
I think
we have to spread our word and
I didn't see that before either, so that's interesting. Thanks for being on this journey with me, guys. Anyway, yeah, so like I said earlier, I think they both actually genuinely love their family, but of course, like, once Ozma reveals everything, that's when just the cat's out of the bag. They're fundamentally incompatible on many levels. Yeah, so Ozma, whatever, tries to escape with his kids because he knows shit's gonna go down fast. Yeah, poor little girls. That girl in the blue dress, her head is really big, but whatever. And I've seen some people say that Ozma was bad for trying to take the kids away. And here, let me tell you something about, like, an unsafe living environment and abusive relationships. You get the fucking kids out. You do not, what's the fucking word? You do not expose kids to that kind of bullshit. Like, the most horrible divorce ever, you do not expose the kids to that. And I think at an earlier time, Salem would have agreed. But at this point, cat's out of the bag. She's feeding in to her inner feelings, her desire for destruction. And I think at this point, she doesn't care what happens to the kids. So, I think Ozma was doing the right thing, the only right thing, by trying to get the kids out of the castle. And it's just heartbreaking what happens. And yes, I assume that the kids are dead and they're not the original maidens. Oh, that fucking reminds me. Gotta write that down. Yeah. I wrote down a thing, and I'll talk about it in a minute, and then you'll find out what I wrote down. Yeah, so I completely agree with anyone who says Ozma was bad for trying to get the kids out. That is, like, the right thing to do, and I am so glad he tried to fucking do it. Like, how does someone be like, oh, this person's trying to get their kids out of a increasingly abusive and bad situation. They're bad for trying to get their kids out of that. Like, what the fuck? What are you on? That's my opinion, but what are you on? Yeah, so they fight, blah, blah, blah. I think the kids are dead. Also, Salem shot first, so it's her fault. Yepers, so I think the kids are dead, but they're the inspiration for the maidens. And yeah, so this is also something Arnold talked about in his video. There's a striking resemblance of the oldest girl, the one in blue, to Jinn, the Relic of Knowledge, because like of the blue coloring and like the gold chains around, and that's a pretty good clue. And I don't think Rooster Teeth would just allow something obvious like that to not mean anything. So I think Arnold's theory was the gods might be still monitoring Remnant a little bit, or even just maybe the afterlife, and the gods would know that these are the 4 little girls and take pity on them and reincarnate them into the relics to give them kind of a personality, like obviously Jinn. We don't know, we haven't seen any of their other relics though, but Arnold also talked about how when Jinn came out, she's like, oh, nice to see you again, old man, and old man is a term for dad. So I really like that theory. I agree with that theory. I'm on board. So that's basically the end. I mean, obviously we see him reincarnate a few times. Like, that's cool. I haven't talked about this for a long time and haven't really gotten into the meat of it. So I guess just some little last things I noticed or like want to talk about. I do also agree with Arnold that I think Jean is related to Salem and or Ozpin in some way, shape, or form. I do agree with that. Maybe Salem because of the blonde hair, blue eyes thing, but assuming the kids died, I don't know how that would be possible. I don't know, it's kind of a gray area, but I would really like Jean to be related in some way, so maybe that in the opening, he's like taking it out on Ozpin, not Oscar, fucking hopefully, I don't know what the opening's about, but so it would be kind of like Ozpin orchestrated the whole thing for Jean's existence and gotta use him as something, so. And then obviously at the end, I guess I'll click to it, Jinn says you can't destroy Salem. Yeah. Why am I just like being fucking quiet and shit? Yeah, so Ozpin is like, how do I destroy Salem? Jinn says you can't, so that obviously means that it heavily implies by plot twist magic that Salem can be destroyed, but Ozpin can't do anything about it. So there's a way to do it. The obvious way would be to get her to understand the meaning of life and death, but for some reason I don't think that's exactly going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. So that's about the end of me actually discussing the episode. Now we can get into the spicy stuff, which is who's right and who is wrong. Stay tuned. News at 6. No, I'm kidding. I'm just going to switch to another clip now. So I have a little chart called Whose Fault Is It? And I have 6 boxes. Salem is right, Salem is wrong, Ozpin's right, Ozpin's wrong, gods are right, gods are wrong. And in each box, I went through the episode, and like when a major thing happened or a character revealed their idea, their morals, whatever, I wrote down like, do I think this is right or wrong? So just a little precursor to get y'all enticed, I guess, if anyone is still even watching at this point. For Salem, both the right and wrong, I wrote down 13 points. And 30% of those were in the Salem is Right box. For Ozpin, I wrote down 12 total points. 67% of those were in the Ozpin is Right box. For the gods, I wrote down 9 points, and 22%, which is only 2 points, were in the gods are right box. So let's just get into this, shall we? First, let's start with Salem, and then the gods, and then Ozpin, okay? So here are all the reasons I think Salem was right. And when I say like character is right or character is wrong, I kind of worded these points like a little weirdly, so just take it as like this is a good thing that the character did, or I agree with what the character did or thought. So that's that. So my 4 points for Salem is right. Number 1, she was expressing human emotion, pain, loss in front of the gods, and the reason I put this in the Salem is Right box is because even though the gods did not treat her this way, it is totally okay for a human who is imperfect and has emotions and experienced a horrible loss to do that. And I think it was like noble that she went and did that in front of the gods. 2, Salem was so hurt that she would do anything to get the love of her life back. Like I said way earlier in this video, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's something I would do, and I think it's something a lot of people would do, try to get the love of their life back if they feel like an injustice had happened. 3, Salem was, in my opinion, punished way too harshly by the gods, and has a right to be mad, and I talked about this earlier. And 4, despite Salem's desire for destruction, I think, like I mentioned before also, that Salem genuinely loved her family. Like, before Ozma revealed anything to her, I think Salem genuinely loved her family, and I think that was a good thing about her. So, why is Salem wrong? 1, she cannot accept the meaning of life and death. 2, she attacked her creators when she just didn't get what she wanted twice. 3, she is selfish and arrogant like the gods described. 4, she was pulling others and like armies and stuff into her personal vendetta. And this gives insight to who she truly is inside. She was just going to manipulate people to get what she wanted, which is like what she does now anyway. 5, she cursed everything but herself. She didn't want to take any blame for the situation. 6, she had the desire for destruction created by the pools of Grimm, though like I mentioned way earlier, this is not entirely her fault. She just wanted to die. 7, she withheld information from Ozma when they were reunited just from the start, and like I made that big deal about withholding information in relationships is bad. 8, she forgot her own humble beginnings as a human. She was all like, why try to redeem these humans when we can be like more than them, blah blah blah, we can replace them. It's like, guess what, bitch, you were a human at one point, so you seem to have forgotten this. And then finally, number 9, at the end, she just didn't care if her kids were killed. She shot first. Like, that is empirical evidence. She did not care about her family anymore. So Salem was right, Salem was wrong. That is my reasons. Let's do the gods are right or the gods are wrong. So what are the reasons the gods are right? I could only find 2 reasons. 1, they wanted to maintain the balance of life and death, the cycle of life, whatever, even though they had differences, and like that makes sense to me, like there should be a balance. And 2, they were giving humanity the ability to exist again, to become harmonious with each other, to redeem themselves, and I think that's a pretty good thing. Like, there's nothing super wrong with that. I don't necessarily get why they wanted to do that, but I don't think it's a bad thing. So here are a bunch of reasons. Those are the only reasons I believe I agree with the gods. The reasons I think they are terribly wrong, there are 7 of them. 1, they seem to not comprehend or care about human emotions. 2, their quarrel led to them reviving and killing a purely innocent man several times, which is basically torture of an innocent soul. 3, and they didn't care about it. 3, they made Salem immortal because she expressed emotion and loss and pain and hurt. That is way over the top punishment. 4, immortality does not equal balance, so the gods could have just killed her too, and the effect would be the same, so I don't get why they made her immortal. I think it's pretty stupid. Stupid of a punishment. 5, they destroyed literally all of humanity just because Salem got a little army, and the gods didn't like the results of their little experiment, which I also talked about earlier. 6, they came up with a very convoluted way to save humanity and deal with Salem. Like, why do they want to start over at all? Why care so much about teaching Salem when there are other humans who would do what Salem did, probably? And, like, why do they put all their responsibility on this one human? And finally, number 7, our creation rests within your hands. Just like, why? The gods don't seem to actually care about their creation. So why do they care if it comes back? And, like, they just don't want to do any of the work. They're just like, let's put everything to this human and just see what the fuck happens. Like, whatever, we don't care. So I think the gods are 78% of the time, the gods are wrong. And 70% of the time, 70% of the time Salem is wrong. But then I came up with only 33% of the time Ozpin is wrong. So let's first start with why Ozpin is wrong, just to shake it up a little bit. Because this list would have been way longer before this episode. Number 1, Ozpin withheld information from Salem at the start, the whole thing about relationships. 2, he allowed himself to go along with Salem for years, even though he knew his duty, his assigned task, which I don't think he should have gotten that task in the first place, but whatever. 3, he stuck his dick in crazy 4 times, which I get they could be in love, like, yes, I get that, but he literally had an internal desire to basically destroy her, and he stuck his dick in her 4 times, at least, to make 4 children. So, there's that. Number 4, the last reason why I think Ozpin could be wrong, or, like, he did a bad thing or whatever, he could have already told RWBY and, like, whoever else, Oscar, whatever, this story, just maybe a less personal version of it, and also had less secrets, and I think there definitely would have been, like, way less trouble, and Team RWBY and the gang could have definitely been more on board with Ozpin if he would just been way more truthful at the start. So, finally, to top it all off, why is Ozpin right? There are 8 reasons I wrote down. His base slash original qualities from Ozma are courageousness, justice, purity, etc. So he is innately a good, righteous human being. 2, despite the death slash revival fiasco and his suffering, he still agreed to fight for humanity and try to unite them. 3, he refused a life without the love of his life and would have remained dead just to be with her instead of becoming alive again. 4, he did not judge Salem's appearance when they were reunited and she was all grimy. He did not judge her for this. He loved her for who he thought she still was. Number 5, he was a good father who loved his family. That is definitely a good one. Number 6, he wanted to protect his kids. Super duper important. Like, he wants to protect people. That's amazing. Number 7, he basically went through way more loss than Salem did. He lost everything just to try to save humanity. And that is, like, that should count for several. If hopefully you agree with me. I don't know. You're entitled to your opinion. Whatever. And finally, after being told that he cannot do anything to destroy Salem and stop reincarnating, he is still trying to do it. And that just speaks volumes, honestly. That about does it. I don't. This video is gonna be so long. Thank you guys so much for watching. Even if you just watched a little bit, this episode is fucking wild. This is gonna take me a while to edit too. I fucking love this episode. I guess just to recap, everyone has good things they did. Oh my god. And everyone is blamed for something. Everyone did something wrong. I think the most good parties in this, from most to least, was Ozpin, Salem, and the gods. And the gods definitely did the most wrong, and then Salem was also a bitch. But Ozpin, he needs to stop keeping secrets, but really, like, he didn't do a lot wrong. So this has definitely been interesting for me to examine what I think is right and wrong in this story. Oh god, this is just a sign I need to go fucking eat and, like, chill the fuck out. So, thank you guys so much for watching this mammoth of a video. Oh god. Okay, I'm just gonna end before I die. And hopefully, if I do die, I don't get reincarnated because I don't want to be immortal or any shit like that. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely let me know what you thought of this episode. It was a fucking roller coaster, dude. I'm gonna go eat dinner and then react to episode 4. So that's gonna be super interesting. Oh god. I should just stop talking now. Thanks for watching. Pray for me and pray for Farm Boy. I will see you guys in my episode 4 reaction. Bye.